So I'm Ben, and this is Lincoln, the Redbeard. We were asked to put together the lightning talk session, so here we are. We made a one-page site, and we had a bunch of submissions. So I just wanted to explain how we selected the talks. We've got 6 talks. They're 5 minutes each. We had them in a database. We deleted the names, and we just picked them based on topic. So we didn't know who the people were, but we knew what the topic would be. So we got them, we put our thinking caps on, we chose the best possible things that we could do, and this is what we've come up with. So who are we going to have first?
First up, we have Darcy Laycock, and he's doing a talk, Dr. Smalltalk, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Objective-C. Darcy.
Hi guys, I'm Darcy. So today, if you don't recognize from earlier, I'm talking about kind of how Smalltalk has influenced both Objective-C and Ruby and why you shouldn't discount it straight away. So first off, Objective-C is actually really, really neat. And no, I haven't gone crazy. As Mario would put it, it's super neat. Like, so you take C, add a tablespoon of Smalltalk, a whole bunch of crazy, and you have Objective-C. So first off, the biggest complaint is verbosity. But thankfully, verbosity in Objective-C actually means a lot of really nicely designed and easy to use APIs. Like Ruby, Objective-C has monkey patching. So despite being a compiled language, how you use alias method chain, for instance, in Ruby to do stuff, Objective-C has an equivalent with a much cooler name, swizzling. So if any of you guys have ever jailbroken your phone or used Symbol on a Mac to do things like add color support to terminal, swizzling basically happens in Objective-C where it rewrites one method to point to another. Like we have send in Ruby to dynamically invoke methods, Objective-C comes with perform selector on the base object class, or if you want to get really cool, Objective-C message send, which lets you do it from the C level. There's a huge range of APIs, so no longer do you have to be frustrated with a really crappy HTTP library like in Ruby. In Objective-C, they're constantly evolving, they're all right, and only about 50% of them will make you cry. So we all love blocks in Ruby, I assume. If you don't, put your hands up. Excellent. So Objective-C recently got them, and they're kind of cool. They work, but you're working in Objective-C. It has arc, which is kind of like GC, but at compile time. So it kind of works well. And the most important thing before I finish is it's not C++. So you can do it at a compiled language. It's nice to work with. It's friendly. The syntax isn't utterly horrible. It's actually quite enjoyable once you get to use it. You should give it a shot. And I'm Darcy, and that's my talk. Thanks. Puma.
So, give me 1 second to introduce you. So next up we have John Rowe, and he's doing a talk called Black, White, with a slash in the middle. John.
Where's the stash? Woo!
Just imagine it's in between there, Constantine.
Black, white. The saying goes that the world is not black and white, that the world is grey. Yet people tend to be polarized, partisan, divided. We developers are bad at this. We are, pardon the pun, binary. Everything is good or evil, web scale or won't scale, SQL, no SQL. Someone phrased this better on Tuesday night. It's kind of primal, me versus them. This talk was inspired by the Rails vulnerability that happened recently. So that's kind of where it's come from. There's lots of rage and trolling. Some of it lighthearted, some of it, somebody was wrong on the internet. Mats is nice, so we are nice. Yet we are addicted to drama. Ruby dramas, anyone? Part of this comes from the Ruby ethos in a way. We have DHH to thank for convention over configuration, or curation over configuration in some cases. Ruby is slow. Ruby is fast. We have these arbitrary lines in our heads. People say that Ruby is slow because it executes slow. People say that Ruby is fast because we write it fast. Rails is slow to test. Rails is fast to write. Partisan lines, we have these camps. We are a dynamic language in Ruby. We have type-safe languages. I've heard the argument, especially with the Rails vulnerability, that it wouldn't happen in a type-safe language because they can't eval code. Yet it was a community mistake that happened that caused the vulnerability. We get accused of throwing caution to the wind in Rails. We get accused of causing controversy. The Rails vulnerability. Was it a vulnerability or was it a feature? There was no bad code written that caused the vulnerability. It was a series of interconnected components together that ended up owning your application, your server, possibly the entirety of the internet. Yet we had rages over it. We had arguments. People shouted out at the Rails community for doing things wrong. Somebody was wrong on the internet. We forgot that web development is a compromise. Everything is a compromise. If we wanted to write the most secure applications in the world, we would probably have to write them in some low-level obscure language. We might have to use types, who knows? But we need to remember that Rails is a compromise. It allows us to write applications fast. They might be executed slow. They might not be the most performant in the world. But we need to remember that the important thing is we are, to steal from earlier this morning, delivering value, exchanging our time for value. So we need to be more balanced in our criticism. When someone is wrong on the internet, do not go rage-faced trolling at them. Remember that we, the community, everyone, it's analog. So please, be excellent to each other. Remember the balance of our community. And I couldn't finish this talk without having a beautiful picture. Because, after all, it's all about the aesthetics. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. One thing we forgot to mention at the beginning is, as we stated on the site, there was a prize for the best talk. Thanks to our friends at Travis CI, we actually have 2 prizes. We've got a V60 kit and a grinder, so the 2 people who have just spoke, keep that in mind. But next, you don't have anything, do you?
No, he's good. Yeah.
So next we have Toby Heder.
Head.
And he's doing an ode to 17 databases in 5 minutes.
Hello. If you saw my talk yesterday, I've substituted Linux with much via technology. I wandered lonely through the cloud that floats on high over virtualized software on a hypervisor or something. That's the only 2 lines of the ode. So, databases. This is to help you web scale as efficiently as possible. Alchemy DB, number 1. If you like Redis but really miss SQL and you think Lua is good for data, then it's a good choice. Cassandra is excellent. It's a column database. If you can work out how to actually structure your data into it, it's excellent. It's named after the god, the Greek goddess of eventual consistency. Couch is useful for storing documents that you want to really struggle to get back out again. Couchbase. It's mem-cached with the guy from Couch, apparently. It has no other resemblance to Couch. Elasticsearch. I know you're not a database, baby, but I really want to use you as my primary data store. Fantastic API for retrieving JSON documents. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Great. Hadoop. It's really big. Hyperdex. You had me at hyperspace hashing. And then the developer mocked Mongo with delightful academic insight. So I highly recommend it. MemSQL is excellent. It is the fastest, and it says so on their website. They compile SQL into C++. So it's even more to fastest. And it's in RAM, which I think was fast in the first place, so good. MongoDB is like Couch. It's for losing documents at web scale. MySQL is what you should be using if you're not using PostgreSQL, but you might want to look at a fork because in 2 we've got Oracle. That's it, on Oracle. Neo4j is for graphs. If you're building a social network, probably use MySQL like Facebook did. But you might wish, when you're playing around, that you had used a graph database. React is a massively distributed key-value store, and you probably won't need it, as we just learned upstairs. But from an engineering perspective, it is just, Erlang, OTP, have a look, it's great. Postgres, next to Elasticsearch, it's you I love. And as we learned yesterday, my relationship, the way I feel about Postgres, is really hard to model in Postgres. The beautiful thing about Postgres is it has HStore, so it's also SQL, NoSQL, and you can embed V8 into it, and it is now MongoDB, NoSQL, SQL. Redis is for when you really don't want to admit that you have a queue. I'm reusing my own line, I'm sorry. And Redis should probably be bundled into Rails, because every app I've worked on in like last 2 years has had Redis somewhere in its stack. RethinkDB is what happens when you develop Mongo, but thinking that ACID is important. So it looks awesome, but it's quite slow. And finally, and not least, is Spanner, which is Google's new incredible exercise. It's a geographically distributed, tightly consistent, acidic, is that the word? SQL-based data store. All you need are atomic clocks and everyone to have a GPS. So basically, Google just said, go fuck yourselves. Thank you.
Thanks, Toby. Next, we have Robert Postel. And his talk is, when I load up this web page, Rails Girls, it's more awesome than falling face first into your food stuff. That's it.
I should have actually made a note of what I was going to call the talk, because, sorry, I should have made a note of what I was actually going to call the talk, but I didn't, so who am I? Well, it actually doesn't matter, because I am the least correct person to be talking about this. But why should you do Rails skills? Well, I'm going to give you 3 reasons. The number 1 reason, this is my daughter. And in about 18 years, when she's not calling me a crypto-fascist, she might well have a little bit of geek in her, because I can't teach her anything else. I can't teach her art. I can't teach her handy stuff. I'm useless on all that. But computers, I can give you a little hand with that. Second reason you should do Rails Girls is this website. If you go to this website is a soul-crushing destruction of our profession. It's awful. And then the third reason is socializing. This is what English people do to socialize. Well, sometimes. But I'll tell you a little story. A number of years ago, I went to a party, and I was doing quite well. I was being quite witty, and we were talking about politics, and it was awesome. And then suddenly what happened was I stopped because everybody said, oh, what do you do? And in your mind, you go, and you kind of go, oh, and then you go, I'm a computer programmer. And you know that there are all these things that come with computer programmer. And in fact, at that particular party, somebody said to me, do you still live with your parents? Ow. So what is Rails Girls, and why is it fun? This is Rails Girls Wednesday. I'm not in this photo. I have no idea where I was. That's quite embarrassing. So we'll move quicker on. But what Rails Girls is it's an introductory kind of day and a half where people get a laptop, we put Rails on it, and then we make an app. And it is awesome. By the end of the day on Wednesday, we had at least half a dozen people who produced a basic app and deployed it onto Heroku. They had something real on the internet. That is massive. It took me years to do that. But also, it's awesome and it's fun because it's making things. It's what we do. We make things. It's fun because you get to add to the community, and hopefully you get to add a bit of magic to the community. And it makes you think about you and your understanding. This happened on Wednesday. I was talking to one of the participants, and she said to me, "So what's the difference between the kinds of brackets?" And I went, "Well, so the square brackets are for arrays, and then the curly brackets are either a hash or a block. And then, oh, you know what? Parentheses are just their own methods." And it was like, I had to go away, and then I had to come back and re-talk the question through. But it's like, some of this stuff is so intuitive to us. So, not intuitive, just inured, I guess. But it's massive to other people. And we should totally be talking about it, because it makes you think, well, why are all these things so similar and yet so different, depending on the context? So hopefully, I've already sold you on why you should do it. There is one moment that I'd like to take, because quite clearly, there are a lot of guys who would like to help. You should go to this and just have a little quick read. It freaked me out, but it's actually like, it's just a massive compendium of all the things that can go wrong. So running a Rails Girls event, because you don't want to linger on that. You need three things. You need a venue, you need coaches, you need food. I'm telling you now, the community is awesome. Like Pat talked about the community, we've all talked about the community. Those coaches, they'll appear, people will appear, and it's very easy to get sponsorship. And that's it. Success. So what should you do? You should go to that URL, you should sign up, and you should run a Rails Girls in your city. And go to that site. Done.
What are you doing here?
I got some email from you.
Next up, we have Cameron Barry with his talk called Design Your API, Motherfucker.
Ask Ben. Well, whatever. All right, I've only got 5 minutes. So I'm going to talk about designing your API, and if you're creating an API, how to go about designing that. But before I get started, just a bit of a primer for you guys. Rant mode is now enabled. I only have 5 minutes, so let's just move on. I'm now an iOS developer. I used to do a lot of Ruby. I did it for my full-time job. I built lots and lots and lots of APIs when I was doing that job, mainly because what I did was built back-end systems for touchscreen kiosks. So the kiosk touchscreens are all built in Flash. They all communicated with APIs, and I made lots and lots of mistakes in building those APIs. As karma would have it, I now write apps and consume APIs. So basically, my day consists generally of getting angry about the APIs that I consist, which are similar to the APIs that I used to provide. So bad APIs, in summary, really make it hard to craft fast apps. They make it really difficult. They make it really difficult to craft stable apps. And they make it, they force you to bake logic into the application in which you can't update, if that makes any sense. So, you know, you deploy an app to the App Store and like, you don't get to update that, right? Like maybe the user will update it, maybe they won't, but you don't really get that choice. It's not the web, it's different, right? So moving on, you guys can make me happy, right? Like I can be happy again. Like good APIs will remove logic from the client side of the application that you're building, okay? To the extent that they can, obviously. But the problem with that is that they are really hard to make. It's not easy to make a good API that does that sort of stuff. But it does mean that we can update our applications without having to do App Store updates as often, okay? And we can reduce the fragility in our apps without having to lose our freaking minds all the time. So some tips for you guys in this kind of stuff. Version your APIs, for Christ's sakes. Like, I don't care how you version it, but just version it, please, for God's sake. Like I say, if I'm pointing to your API and you change it, it breaks my app. I can't get an update out for 5 days. So I have 5 days of people with broken app. That's bad. It doesn't work out well. Object just to JSON, it's not good enough. Okay, like your API it's not a second-class citizen in the view hierarchy. You are sending me view data, essentially. Okay, so it's a view. Let's treat it like one. So let's give it a little love. All right. It's not a representation of your schema. So user underscore ID 10, fuck, don't do that. Don't do that. Now I need to go hard coding URLs into my app and bad things happen. Like, give me a URL that I could follow to find information about the user. That would be great. Even better than that, maybe give me a little bit of summary data about the user, and then I can go off to the user thing and get lots more information should I require it, you know? But obviously, don't supply me all the things. So like create it at, like, do I kind of need that as a consumer of your API? Am I going to use that? Probably not. Update it at? Probably might use that. Create it at? Not so much. So let's strip some of that stuff out and let's start treating the delivery of an API with a little love. So I think the thing for me really is about crafting your response. In that response to block under JSON, don't just go, you know, there's my post object to JSON sweep, done. Let's treat it like a view in the same way that we craft HTML, CSS in our documents. Let's craft our APIs in the same way and give them some thought and give them some love. And I think the thing here is that like everyone here is awesome, okay? Like I consume APIs from a raft of different technology stacks, and by far the Ruby one is far and away the best. Okay, there is some really horrible APIs out there, sorry, .NET, but it's just, they can be really awful. So everyone here is certainly like heading in the right direction, and I think the care, love, and attention that everyone in here already gives to things like the HTML document, their tests, just that general kind of stuff, let's just push that down a little bit into the APIs as well and stop kind of just thinking of them as like object to JSON. Keep on being awesome. Let's keep heading in that direction. That'd be good. Make your APIs awesome too, because let's face it, who fucking knows how we're going to use them? We might build something amazing on top of your already amazing platform. So thank you very much.
Hey, so one thing I didn't say was we emailed all of these speakers at lunchtime. So they've prepared their talks for 5 minutes since lunchtime. So I think that's really awesome. Jason and Odin here are going to give an awesome talk, I'm sure. But I thought I would just read out a little tweet, so you have to help them here. Jason tweeted at 1 hour ago. That was a retweet. Drunk last night. Hey, do you want to do a talk on Fresh Shell tomorrow? Sure, sounds like fun. Today. Wait, how many people? So please, welcome. Come on, help them.
Jason and Odin.
Can you guys see the edges? Not really.
Not really.
I'm just going to bring the window in a little bit. This is going well.
Just drag it slightly right.
Oh yeah, good idea.
Sweet.
All right, cool. So we're going to talk about Fresh. We have a problem with dot files at the moment, and do you guys have your dot files versioned? Yes. Yep. How many of you have them on GitHub? How many of you have copied something from someone else's dot files? And then have you tried to update that? And you like updated this file from someone else and then
remember where it came from?
Yeah. So we created a tool to help you do this. So we created something that's sort of like Bundler, not as good, but for your dot files. And everything's sourced from different Git repos.
Yep. So the basic idea is you want to split up your dot files into small components, say small files, put your aliases for Git in a file, for example. And then you can put that up to GitHub and other people can grab them down. So especially at our office, we pretty much all share the same config, like because we're obviously talking all the time. So yeah, let's just share real easily. Basically, there's 3 different things that Fresh can do. It can merge your shell files together. So all your aliases and any functions, that sort of thing. It handles your config files.
Keep going.
Yep. And it can also do scripts. So you've got little utility scripts around. You can handle those as well. And so there's a quick look at a sample file. This is Odin's file. And so you can see there's a lot of stuff there. So I'll page through. And for example, just down here, Odin uses most of my config files for tmarks and input RCs and stuff like that. Yep, so it generates, what it does is it copies all the files from all different places, puts it in a build directory, and then it symlinks those out into where they need to go. So your home directory, /bin, etc. And there's a really quick look at what it looks like. You can see that on our GitHub repo, so it's in our wiki. So it's all fairly self-contained except for those symlinks.
So we've got another GitHub wiki page where you can like put up fresh lines and basically like a short description of what they do, so you can it makes finding them easier. So we built a little API, and you can search for different things. So there's a search for Ruby. So you've got like pry RCs and IRB RCs, etc. You can find other users by searching GitHub for file :fresh RC, and there's like 7 people using it at the moment.
Yeah, so not yeah. They're the ones that are published, yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to switch over all at once. You can slowly move like your local files and let Fresh handle compilation and symlinking. So this also makes it easier to install your files. Like at the moment, you might have a rake task or a shell script that goes through and symlinks everything and make sure that the file doesn't exist and make sure all these different things. We just handle all of that. But you can also leave your files as they are and use Fresh purely for sourcing config from other people. So all it does is add a .fresh folder to your home directory, and that's pretty much the only change we make. The only other stuff is symlinks. You should probably be a good citizen and make your .files freshable, so the more you split things up, the easier it is for other people to grab the parts that they want. There's the details, freshshell.com, or just freshshell/fresh on GitHub.
Cool. Thank you.
Cheers.
Great, so that wraps up our lightning talks. Can you just all imagine some elevator music in your head for about 2 minutes while we go off and do some judging? Oh wait, here's one prepared earlier. Hello, everyone. Okay, we've made a decision, and first I'm going to call Josh and Constantine from Travis CI up to award their prize.
I'll just use this. After carefully deciding, listening, and laughing, we loved the databases, the 16 databases. We don't like to take our databases seriously either, or our testing, or your testing. So we'd like to award a V60 kit and a little grinder for the 16 databases. And that's from the lovely coffee lovers at Travis CI. So please caffeinate yourself and consider testing.
Okay, and we deliberated also over which talk we were going to prefer, but it all really came down to Robert Postel, and I think he's doing some really great work. And I think talking about your daughter, and I think looking at the future of our community is such a noble thing to do, and congratulate him. It's a prize. Cool.
And that's a AeroPress and scales and a cool little grinder that sort of goes with it. So thank you, and yeah, definitely go check out Rails Girls. It's an excellent course.
I also want to add on, because we're huge fans of Rails Girls, and we help mentor the Rails Girls in Berlin and the office. We want to thank you guys by giving you a month's free Travis Pro to do whatever testing that you'd like to do for your private repos. So just come and see us a bit later and we'll set you guys up. So both of you as well. Not you guys.
We also just like to thank the other guys who came up and did a lightning talk. There was some really awesome stuff, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. So thank you.